For my informative speech, I read an article about ethics. It's titled Fostering an Ethical Organization from the Bottom Up and the Outside In. And it seems that our efforts to fight fraud in the corporate world have certainly not been very productive. We can see that in the media quite frequently. You look at the news, you hear stories about corporate, it could be insider trading, corporate theft, bribery, same thing in the newspapers, see the headlines frequently. And in the article it states that there's much emphasis placed on executive management, I guess from rank and file employees, for them to bear the burden of making sure the entire organization is ethical and policing the organization's ethics also. But that's not necessarily the case. Now, different techniques are being tried also to help succeed with this problem. And evidence suggests that informal practices, cultural norms, and the active participation of key stakeholders may actually matter more when it comes to fostering ethical business practices and preventing fraud. And that's straight out of the article. And these are some things that definitely need to be taken into consideration, because certain cultures may have different ways of viewing possibly kickbacks, things like that. Some cultures may think if you can get away with it, that's fantastic. And if you get caught, oh, well, that's the price you pay. Other cultures think, no, if you start getting into cultural or kickbacks like that, regardless of your cultural background, it's still not good. It's a negative action. And ultimately, everyone's responsible for their own organizational ethics. Every member of the organization is responsible for that. And they found in the article, they stated that the message is more powerful when it's articulated in everyday business interactions. I would examine an example of that might be something like if you're a small company and you have a problem with employee theft, it's probably going to achieve more results or better results if you're able to relate that to your employees in those terms from a smaller perspective than giving them an example of, say, the damaging effects it has on an organization when you have Wall Street traders acting unethically and stealing people's money and so forth, things like that. There are also performance and reward systems. Employees certainly pay attention to the behaviors that are desirable, and they're going to want to emulate those behaviors. And they should also pay equally as much attention to those that are negative, that achieve negative attention. And there are certainly going to be some limitations to the success. It seems that personal perceptions and possibly the way people rationalize things are going to be part of the problem. Some individuals might rationalize, like a CFO for the corporation, for example. They might know the numbers are bad and the revenues aren't coming in, but they might continue to falsify the books because they think that's preferable to the alternative. And they may be thinking the alternative is bankruptcy and all the employees that are out of a job and all the families that are going to be struggling financially. And they might rationalize that it's better to continue with the lies and keep everyone employed than to actually post the true results and have the shareholders lose money and all the key stakeholders in the company. Another limitation could also be the loss of moral perspective to the new insider. If you have an employee that's just hired and they have a pretty good idea of the ethical culture of the organization, or what it should be anyway, but then they see ethical shortcomings or misconduct, over time they're probably going to come to realize that that is the accepted practice for the organization. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because everyone else is doing it. And again, there can also be some gray areas too, where where people think, yeah, this is a little bit unethical, maybe not too bad. It might be acceptable to some, maybe not to others, but it's okay. Now, the discussion of ethics in general can be difficult also, but as with anything else, it does get better with practice. It can be successful. We're probably not going to achieve perfection in this, but we can achieve success. And one of the ways to use that is by using positive examples of other employees. Some of the situations they've been involved in, the decisions they've made, and how well it played out. And that was my article. I hope you've enjoyed it.